What is up, guys? Rick Hackus here, and today we're discussing some very interesting Destiny information. But first we need to talk about Destiny's concept art, which is well known as being, well, simply fantastic. Bungie has a ton of extremely talented artists on its payroll, and we get some really fantastic works of art. Therefore, a lot of Destiny fans are interested in going back and taking a look at these old concept art pieces. However, Destiny is also kind of a unique case in that, these concept art pieces really give us a little bit of insight into what was once being planned for Destiny. Bungie kind of has a reputation of essentially taking off more than it can chew, having these massive plans, and eventually having to cut a lot of that for the final actual product. And again, a lot of concept art shows what was once being planned and eventually got cut. However, the story doesn't stop there, because Bungie also has a reputation of going back to what they planned and kind of reworking it and sometimes finishing what they started. And therefore, sometimes this concept art doesn't show us what was, but rather what is about to come. And the best example I can think of this is this piece of Destiny concept art here. This is showing, I think, pretty clearly a Guardian hiding from the Taken. I mean, you see a bunch of different enemy factions together, all draped in shadow, like it's very clearly the Taken. But this didn't come out a few months before the Taken King. This came out years, over a year before the initial release of vanilla Destiny. How crazy is that? And it shows again that Bungie was planning this whole thing with the Taken King, with the Dreadnought, etc. before Destiny ever released. And they went back to what they had to cut for the initial Destiny, reworked it, and then we got the Taken King. So it's kind of amazing to think about, and a piece of concept art has been out for, years before the Taken King, hinting at what is about to happen, and a lot of people just did not realize that. So just keep that in mind, because there was a post about a Destiny artist, Frank Capizzuto, showing off some of the concept art he has done for Destiny. Now, most of it is just amazing work that Destiny fans would appreciate, and I will link it in the description down below. But two works of art specifically have really caught my eye, and that's why I made this video. Now, the main piece of concept art that I really want to show you guys is this piece here. This is really interesting because it shows flamethrowers planned for Destiny. Now, you can really see this because if we zoom in on the gun on the right side of the concept art, you can see clearly it has a canister for holding, gas, and there is literally an icon, a flammable icon on this gas canister. Like, so clearly, this is showing that this is a canister full of ignitable fuel. So this is saying to me, definitely we have a flamethrower on our hands, just an early concept of flamethrowers in Destiny. Moving on to the left side of the screen, the gun on the top, it also has a canister potentially for holding gas on the top of it. The front part of it seems like something like an igniter, like something that would produce a spark or a flame for, obviously, you'd shoot out the gas past that and it would ignite the gas. And the one on the bottom is something that I've never seen anything like this before. But again, if we're having extremely futuristic flamethrowers in Destiny, this could be potentially what they might look like. So, flamethrowers confirmed in the Rise of Iron? I wouldn't go that far, definitely not. However, what this is saying, and I think it's very interesting, is that at one point during Destiny's development, Bungie was considering adding flamethrowers into Destiny, considering it enough to actually commission one of their artists to do concept art for it. So that's a very interesting thing. And again, remember, sometimes these concept art pieces have a way of rearing their heads again and being incorporated in the future of Destiny. Now again, nothing is necessarily confirmed, but let's entertain that idea for a sec. What would it be like for flamethrowers to be added into Destiny? Well, there's two ways that Bungie could do it. The first would be simply adding it as an entirely new gun type like they did with sidearms into the game. Then you'd have legendary flamethrowers, you'd have blue flamethrowers, green flamethrowers, and of course you maybe have some exotic flamethrowers. Now, this would require a bunch of different damage archetypes. All of the gun types in the game right now work off these archetypes. So could you have different archetypes of flamethrowers? Well, I definitely think so. You could have ones that shoot very far but don't do very much damage, and then ones that don't shoot anywhere near as far and do a lot more damage, and then you have an archetype kind of in the middle. You could also have recoil on them, so when you're shooting the flamethrowers, they kind of recoil upwards, and therefore you have to have all these stability perks you're looking for. You could maybe have a couple of range perks. Like, you could, in theory, add an entirely new gun type of flamethrowers, probably in the heavy slot, would definitely be the best place for them, into Destiny. I believe it would be possible. However, this is the more unlikely scenario. What is a lot more likely, and the second way Bungie could introduce flamethrowers, is to simply add one as an exotic weapon. Now, I know some of you are out there thinking, look, there's nothing even close to flamethrowers right now in the game. Why would Bungie ever add flamethrowers into Destiny? Well, sometimes we do have these extremely unique one-off exotics. Some of the examples are, firstly, the Sleeper Simulant. Think of the Sleeper Simulant, and think of every other heavy weapon in the game of Destiny. Are any of those similar to the Sleeper? No, the Sleeper Simulant is so different than every other heavy weapon in the game. It is a unique one-off exotic. Sometimes Bungie just gets this idea for a cool weapon and runs with it. The Lord of Wolves may kind of be an example of that too. It is very different from any other special weapon in the entire game. So again, sometimes you have these unique one-off exotics, and stuff like the Lord of Wolves, stuff like the Sleeper Simulant, kind of get me thinking that maybe it is possible that Bungie just says, hey, let's put a flamethrower into the game. Potentially, maybe this is something that is coming in the Rise of Iron. I'm not sure. Maybe the Rise of Iron, maybe a future live update. Bungie did add the Zen Meteor to Destiny with the April update. Unfortunately, it was only for the PlayStation 4, but that does show that they're willing to add exotics into the game with these live updates, so potentially a flamethrower is something we could see. It's now become a lot more reasonable now that we see that not only, are the fans just daydreaming about flamethrowers, but Bungie themselves was considering them as well. Furthermore, I think another very interesting thing is that if you think about the reasons of why flamethrowers were not included of Destiny, of course maybe they found out that they just weren't balanced, or they just didn't have enough customization to have an entire gun type, etc. One of the other reasons may indeed be that the old gen consoles, the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, just couldn't handle flamethrowers. When you have something like a flamethrower, which has all of these effects going on screen, and you have interactions with the environment, because of course it's going to leave, lingering flame, that is a lot for a console to handle, especially an older console like, the 360. So now that they are abandoning those for the Rise of Iron, if that was truly the reason that potentially held the flamethrower back, they just couldn't figure out how to include it in the game, the old gen consoles couldn't handle them, the Rise of Iron may indeed be the place where they finally get made. But again, flamethrowers in the Rise of Iron 100% confirmed, I wouldn't say that. It is cool to look back and see that, again, along the line somewhere, Bungie was considering flamethrowers in Destiny, and I think that is extremely cool, and it does make some of these unique gun types, like flamethrowers. People say, hey, they should add flamethrowers, and a lot of people say, oh, that's kind of a ridiculous idea. Well, clearly Bungie was considering it. They didn't think it was that ridiculous, so maybe we will see the return of flamethrowers sometime in Destiny's future, and perhaps even in Destiny 2. Now, there was one other piece of concept art that I thought was pretty interesting I wanted to show you guys, and it's this piece here. This is showing a hammer sight, essentially, for Destiny. Now this is a dual sight. As you can see, it has a high zoom optic on the bottom, and then on top of that is a much lower zoom red dot sight. Now Bungie has really been stepping up their game in the different sights that you can get on these different guns in Destiny. Like before with vanilla Destiny, we basically had iron sights or a couple of different red dot sights and maybe an ACOG sight thrown in. But they've really stepped that up. We have a bunch of very unique sights in the game. Tracking sights, sights that show people when they're extremely low health, all of that stuff is in the game right now. And this is kind of a cool concept art because it shows, hey, they were thinking about having a dual sight, having a sight that you could switch between high zoom and low zoom optics. And a lot of first-person shooters are kind of adopting this sight because it is a sight that's utilized all the time in, real military situations. Obviously, having a sight that you can adapt to the situation, use a high zoom optic and a low zoom optic all in one package is very useful. So this is, again, something we could potentially see being added maybe in the Rise of Iron, maybe at a different time. It is cool that Bungie was considering adding these dual zoom optics. Now, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned something new and are looking forward to the future of Destiny. Hopefully, the stuff in these concept arts actually does get implemented. Now, if you enjoyed this video, found it interesting, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. Now, if you want to see more Destiny content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.